Sound muted. And we are live with the final game from the group stage of the G7 Division 1 qualifier. I am David, the Whimsical One Wims. Alongside me is Tig, the Celtic Tiger Brennan. And we have an absolute cracker for you this evening between Zodiac Gaming and Team Untitled. Two teams fighting out for the last spot. Tig, how are you feeling about this one?
I'm feeling like this could be an interesting one. We've had some really massive team fights from both sides, just a lot of explosive fighting, a little more chaotic on the side of Untitled, little more controlled on the side of Zodiac, but still expecting massive explosive team fights. We'll see what they could do with it as the bands are starting to roll in.
Yeah, game full of team fights will be absolutely class to cast, and we are in the ban phase already. We see the first couple of bans coming out from both teams, Talon and TF taken away from Untitled, and that's a lot of focus towards two folds, two champions that he can have a pretty early impact on. Away from Zodiac, though, is a focus towards Dosh's jungle pool, with Shyvana and Udyr both taken off the board.
Yeah, and we were just talking about how they really rely on Dosh to engage these fights. And if they take away his jungle pool, that's just going to make it that much harder for Zodiac to actually get the engages they're looking for. I'd expect the Wukong ban here, and they do go for it. So that's his big three champions gone. Likely he picks up the Gragas here because that's the last champion he's been playing. After that, his pool is being stretched very thin.
Yeah, we'll see what he has to go with if they don't go for the Gragas, but I imagine Zodiac will be first picking that jungler. It's always pretty handy if you can first pick the jungler because it's generally not a matchup too reliant on champion matchups. So definitely a good position to be able to first pick at if you're looking to deny priority. And Stalwart has played a little bit of Gragas. It's not been something that he's regularly gone to, but it's something in the champion pool. However, I don't think he'll be too phased by anything. He can play a lot of different champions. Looking at the last band, though, that Zodiac used, targeting Crixelix with that Vayne band, just definitely going for the sub that Untitled are using as Pastors isn't playing, will knock him off his comfort zone a little bit. And we do see the Gragas locked in straight away. So definitely Dosh forced to go for that final champion in his top champion pool.
Yeah, and I like that pickup there for the Gragas, but what I liking here is if they decide to take the Braum away from the Oracle, this is his favorite support. He'll almost certainly go back to that Janna, which means they're forced into playing it even more passive than they have previously. They have to scale at that point because Janna can do a lot in lane, but it's not likely they go for this big dominating lane style against the Braum.
Yeah, both Squirrel and the Oracle are strong Janna players, so both, actually in this case Untitled, choosing to not put the priority on the support that might be most emphasized in this matchup, but rather hovering the Braum. They do go for the Lucian for Crixelix, so without that Vayne available, he decides to go with the Lucian instead, which is a pretty strong pick, so I doubt he's too worried about the Vayne not being there. And the Braum does come in, so the bot lane being locked in for Untitled.
And I've just realized that the Lulu Kog'Maw is still very much open if K-pop is feeling up to it. Pre has played Lulu before for them, and they have the Gragas there who can offer some peel and tankiness. And you can see they haven't hovered anything yet for it, but this would be an amazing pickup if they can get it. We saw it tear through people in the last game I casted from Division 2. I can only imagine it would do something similar in Division 1.
Yeah, and definitely a combo that would really suit the style of play that Zodiac like to do because K-pop is a pretty good AD carry and generally someone that you would like to have in a good position on the champion that's strong enough late game. So they do take the Lulu, which is something that Pre has played before and played pretty well as far as Lulus go, and definitely something in Zodiac's wheelhouse. They're also going to take the Nautilus as well. And Nautilus is a pick we've seen both at top and support so far in the ICS. So we'll be seeing where this one goes.
Yeah, but again, this is just more lockdown, and I'm really looking towards this Kog'Maw because you're building up what's essentially a hyper carry comp. You've got to take something similar to at least Kog'Maw. I don't understand why you wouldn't take it while it's still open. I think what they're thinking is the fact that the AD carry is already locked in for the Untitled side. It's not really a priority. They want to pick up that Nautilus while they can.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because with the Nautilus top and the Lulu mid, There's going to be very little damage late coming out of those two. The Lulu can add a little bit, but if they do go with that Kog'Maw, like we've been talking about, there is so much onus on that Kog'Maw because he's going to be really the only source of damage coming out. We do see the two lock-ins coming from Untitled, though. That's going to be the Morgana and probably going to the top lane and the Trundle jungle for them. So two regular picks we've seen so far throughout the campaign. Definitely Garen and Stalwart will be happy to get champions that they're comfortable on.
Yeah, and this also gives them the counter pick mid, although they probably already had it with the Lulu. It's possible they could have put it support with the Nautilus top. It's unlikely, but possible. We'll see what they decide to go for now. I'd expect Janna Kog'Maw out of them, or perhaps they put that Nautilus into support, pick a top laner who doesn't have such a hard time against Trundle, because a lot of tanky stats can be taken away from that Nautilus. Covering the Kalista, though, maybe they're just not feeling comfortable on that Kog'Maw.
Yeah, maybe not. We'll see what K-pop chooses to go with. If he goes with the Callista, once again, still similar scenario, a lot of onus on him to be the big damage threat. However, Callista, not packing as much late gate power, but packing a lot more safety. She can jump around. They do go with the Callista lock-in, and that will be a Poppy last pick. That could be going support. I imagine so, considering if you have the Nautilus and the Poppy to choose between the top and support, the general preference right now is to have that Nautilus up top and Poppy in the bottom lane.
I don't particularly like the skipping over the Kog'Maw, but obviously they're more comfortable onto this Kalista. And you have that Poppy probably going top lane and actually does offer a decent amount of base damages. Can again be a tank for this Kalista and would actually have been a good pick against a Kalista, but obviously they didn't have that position open at the time. And Twofold's back on Varus, something we saw him on previously, likes to play those kind of zone control champions. This is the only, of course, AD version of that, really. Just poke heavy, try keep people down. Kind of somewhat of a siege, but realistically, Untitled don't really have too much going on for themselves. Kind of looking for those quick team fights, which is obviously what fits their style.
Yeah, and Varus, a pick that Twofolds has actually been denied quite a bit so far. There's been a couple of bans tossed his way throughout the ICS split, so he'll be happy to get that one as well. And we definitely see a lot of comfort coming out for Untitled with their game that decides if they get to LAN or not. They're sticking with champions they know how to play, whereas Zodiac definitely building more towards a comp, more towards a specific strategy. So we'll see how these two pick and ban styles clash when we get onto the Rift.
Also, the double TP for Zodiac means they just have that much more leniency in how they want to make plays. They can get pre into one of the lanes. Lulu is actually a really good TP champion, because the fact is, as soon as she arrives in the lane, regardless of who it is, she can generally either save them and then provide a bunch of CC so that they win that trade.
Yeah, and we'll see how Pre uses. It's been one of the mid laners that he's gone to a good few times so far throughout the split. Also, coming up against Twofolds' Varus, we'll see how that mid lane matchup plays out, because Twofolds will be looking for any opportunity he can get to kind of just annoy Pre in lane with the poke. Obviously, Lulu is going to be difficult to get on, and Varus not exactly someone with huge kill potential, and the Trundle jungle as well might not have too much of an impact, but Twofolds, they'll definitely know what he's doing and should know exactly how this matchup is supposed to play out. So if you can take that experience with him, he could make life tough for Pre in the mid lane.
Yeah, but again, should be a fairly safe lane for Pre. He just has to play it as far back as possible, dodge out the arrows. Could technically use either the shield or the whimsy to facilitate that as well, as long as he's not running himself too far out of mana. It's pretty safe from the side of Zodiac. It's going to be hard to force something out of them just because you have something. The big thing you'll notice with hypercarry comps is generally every pick is very safe because they're designed to keep themselves and other people safe. And if realistically, if you're looking for a gank, you're going to have to try get onto Vox, but he's going to get tanky pretty quickly, and Stalwart not going to have a huge amount of damage in that Trundle jungle. Garen will have a bit more in that Morgana, but not too difficult to dodge the snare for Vox. We'll see how they decide to play this early game, but right now I'm probably in favor of Zodiac's comp.
Yeah, and if we talk about this top lane matchup for a bit, definitely Garen is someone who has a very specific champion pool, a couple of champions, mostly Morgana and Nautilus, that he's gone to in every game so far, whereas Vox has played pretty much anything his team has asked of him. And seeing the Morgana against the Poppy, with that Morgana pick, Untitled has used it to get a bit of early pressure in the top lane, as Garen will constantly push the wave with the Morgana, something that Morgana is very good at and has that black shield. So maybe if Vox looks to take advantage of the forward standing, Garen could slip out of it a little bit. But we'll see how the top lane matchup goes because this one's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, and I think Vox has generally been one of the more consistent players for Zodiac, so putting him behind could give Untitled that edge they need. However, Zodiac have generally had pretty controlled fights, and with Dosh on their engage and Vox on that tanky champion, this is what we were talking about even this morning when that article went out. That's exactly what they need to facilitate their team fights. Yes, Dosh hasn't got maybe his Wukong, so he can't maybe one-shot the AD carry, but he can still displace them with a good explosive cask, and Gragas is one of his practice champions, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he starts the team fights. However, I think where Untitled's kind of eggs should be going is they should start looking for these early leads. As you said, pressuring that top lane, for example, because if they can get edge out an early lead, as Zodiac has been prone to getting caught out at the start of these games, maybe they can snowball that into a big lead.
Yeah, and in that case, a lot will be on Stalwart. And we saw in their last game against NSG that he was pretty huge for them early. He'd show up in just about the right place and managed to catch out a few NSG players in tricky positions. So if he can do that again on the same pick, it will be really handy. And I think a lot will be on Dosh, who so far has favorite champions that don't really get in the lane as early as something like Gragas, like stuff like Wukong and Shyvana. Even when he's played them, he hasn't been a huge threat in the lane. So the Gragas might be a little bit more onus on that, especially if Stalwart puts on the early pressure.
Yeah, and you're looking at actually fairly immobile picks, except of course for that bot lane, the Lucian Braum is a little bit more safety. If you catch that Varus Morgana out, Morgana only really has Black Shield and hoping to snare one of the targets running at her, but not the most difficult ganks if Gragas can get behind them, can make a good flank off. It's on twofolds and Garen not to get caught out, but at the same time, I think they can do that. Varus does tend to sit very far back in the lane, but if he's pressuring pre-early, as he might do, we could see a good gank come off for Gragas.
Yeah, and so we are onto the Rift, and we get a pause straight away. You know what they say about Irish esports pauses, etc. But
They're
definitely
mentioned too often.
mentioned too often. Yeah, I think it's kind of the memes come full circle. If it became always Irish esports without a pause, then always mention that there's never Irish esports without a pause, and now it's kind of swung back around. I don't know when that when that joke will end up being completely exhausted.
I'm exhausted.
I know you are. You told me earlier the game, but we are exiting the pause right about now, and we should be getting onto the Rift for the final group stage game in Division 1 between Zodiac Gaming and Team Untitled. Zodiac right now holding 4th place, but looking to keep it, because if Untitled take this game, they will take that 4th place spot, and they will take Zodiac's spot at LAN. Definitely an interesting one, and both teams will look to give it their all in their final push to make it to the live finals.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them, hopefully not tilt based on it, but really giving it their all and showing that whoever comes out on top really deserved that 4th place.
Yeah, and just to add an extra little layer of drama to it, this is a rematch of the G6 Open Final back when Zodiac were known as Scuderi Esports. Team Untitled coming out on top of that one 3-0, but I think coming into this one, the way Zodiac has played so far this tournament, they come in as favourites, and a team that has shown a lot more consistency will look to keep that up. However, Untitled, in some of their victories, they've looked really good. They've had some really smart play, even though sometimes it seems so chaotic. They managed to find a few nice fights, and they'll be looking to put Zodiac in a position like that once again. We got another pause.
Yeah, and I think what you're mentioning is something similar to what UOL had when they originally came into the EU LCS. It's every game they won looked like they had just tilted the enemy team into playing a completely different version of League of Legends. It was simply because their picks and the way they played is just so unusual that it tends to change the pace of the game. If Team Untitled can control the pace of this game, it could throw Zodiac off and means they can't get those team fights that they so crucially rely on.
Yeah, and Untitled, a team that has been very good at, even if they suffer an early deficit, They're very good at stalling out leads. They have a good bit of wave clear between the Varus, the Morgana, the Lucian. They can kind of just keep the minion waves off the towers, and if they can avoid getting picked off by the enemy team, they manage to just somehow always find their way back into the game, make the fights a little bit more even, and they fight really well. However, Zodiac are definitely a smart team and a team that plays tight when it is needed, and so they'll be looking to not fall into those traps that Untitled might be laying for them if they end up getting sieged.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we're looking at not too much happening level 1, fairly standard starts. We'll be seeing the jungler get a leash bot side, and then they're going to see standard lanes. Nothing like what we saw in the NSG game where you delay the wave or anything. Just going to be the nice, simple start for us.
Just simple sometimes is best. Both junglers hopping around the top side of the map, bottom lanes both taking their camps so they can get that early experience just a little bit easier. And we'll see how the junglers affect the game. We were talking about the impact that Dosh and Stalwart will both need to have for their teams. And given the both starting on the top side, definitely the bottom lane focus could be huge. And we were talking a little bit about Untitled using a sub in the pick ban phase, and that could be pretty big for them because Patsters has been one of the big players for them so far this tournament, and ever since Untitled were a team, Patsters has always been pretty big for them, and the fact that he's not here for this so important game means that Untitled could suffer a good bit from his absence.
Yeah, and I think last time you saw that Vayne ban against Crixelix, so that could just make him suffer all the more, because that was the AD carry we saw him on last time. Maybe he's comfortable on the solution, but it's yet unproven as he gets hooked in.
Oh, he gets hooked in and takes a lot of damage straight off the bat. We were talking about his comfort on the Lucian. That might make him just a little bit more uncomfortable as the early lane plays out.
Yeah, and in the other lanes we're seeing fairly... nothing too big happening, but you can see the Oracle just trying to lay down the law with the anchor there. And has been doing a pretty good job of it. They got that early level 2, which is what allowed that trade in the first place. And landing the hook as well means that they have pretty big lane dominance. They're pushing in now though, so this could turn around as they're sustaining up.
Yeah, and the Oracle has always been a very solid player at support for this team, arguably one of the best players on the team, so you can see the early impact he's having on that lane, definitely making Crixelix and Squirrel think twice about where they're standing, and we can see the early push that him and K-Pop are getting as a result. However, Stalwart is in the area, he could be looking for something if ZDC stay pushed.
Yeah, and I think this should be expected on the side of Zodiac, because obviously Garen is just going to continue to push in, as you mentioned previously. So there's no chance Stalwart goes up there unless they think they can dive, which they obviously can't do versus a Poppy. So all Gragas has to do is hover around this hot lane or gank that top lane. Choose one, and either should be fairly successful.
Yeah, and right now we're seeing Dosh on the bottom side of the map, so that could be where he is looking. That Varus in the mid lane definitely going to look like a juicy target if Two Folds takes one step too far forward. And like you said, that Morgana will be pushed pretty consistently topside. And without Stalwart really over that side of the map, that Morgana could be a pretty easy target if Dosh can find him alone in the top lane later on.
You see, Trundle actually pushed into the jungle there. He's going to have a massive flank here. Zodiac don't seem to be predicting that. They are actually going to come back for him. You can see they're actually going to have a 4-man collapse here. This could spell disaster.
Oh yeah, Stalwart was caught out by a ward, so you see Zodiac making the right moves, looking for the Trundle here. However, he managed to slip out back towards his mid laner and Pre forced to back out of that. So nice choice there from Stalwart to go to where the safety was and finding Two Folds before the rest of Zodiac could find him.
Yeah, perhaps the polymorph or some slightly better pathing from Dosh might have gotten them that kill, but in the end they just walk away from it, and it's actually Pre that ends up taking quite a bit of damage on that Lulu.
Yeah, quite a bit, and we see while K-Pop and the Oracle were called away from the lane, did allow Crixelix just a little bit of time to get a few more minions, and right now holding just over a 5 CS lead in the lane, which has to be a little bit more comforting for him on the Lucian to find that he's actually now ahead in this lane, despite all the pressure that's being put on him. However, they might be looking for the gank. Dosh going to show up from the bush here, however, might be a little bit of his time because the Oracle hooked the minion, and nothing working out there for ZDC.
Flashbacks to Bat Rastard, I'm afraid, but it is gonna be just a minion hook, no kill for them. That's gonna be just a little bit of Dosh's time wasted as he's forced to go back into his jungle, but still, putting out that early pressure is important, and it shows that he has presence in these lanes that he wouldn't have had in his usual champion picks.
Yeah, and that definitely just, you can see that they're definitely targeting Squirrel and Crixlix. Over Two Falls drop low on this trade, and we're seeing three nice trades on the Lulu. Two Falls doing his best to get back in it, and has that Corrupting Potion, which should help him out a little bit, but only one charge left, meaning that he doesn't have too much sustain left in that item. But we see the even trades in the mid lane, and Kree, like you said, not too much kill potential on the Lulu, and has been towards his own tower for the most part. So Stalwart not going to be finding anything there for the meanwhile, which is maybe why he's been playing so aggressively, trying to get in the enemy jungle whenever he can.
Yeah, but so far, pretty good laning praise from Zodiac. They're not trying to force anything, but as I say that, they get caught out.
The Chain of Corruption on Dupree and already pretty low. Gonna try Duke it back. You see the Thunderlord's proc coming in, and Two Folds, the Polymorph will slow down the damage. The Flash Force, but the auto finishes it. First blood over the Two Folds in the mid lane.
It was actually pretty poor timing with the flash there, because you could have gotten away from that if you decided to flash the Q. Missed flashing the Q and actually let the auto go off before the flash. Ends up going down for it, and what was a pretty close trade, but cost him his life.
Yeah, and talk about the caster's curse. As soon as I mentioned that he was playing it safely enough to avoid any trouble from Two Folds, takes the Chain of Corruption and loses out in the trade, losing his life for it. Down both summoners as well, which means the Stalwarts, if he does want something mid lane, will have a lot easier of a time. And that's a pretty big early advantage going over to Untitled.
Yeah, you can see he actually goes straight for that BF sword. Gonna build towards perhaps a Duskblade with that BF sword longsword. Little bit of an unconventional choice for Varus, but it could work out. That early armor pen is pretty useful on him, but means that he just doesn't have that safety that perhaps the Yumu's would offer, or even that Muramana in terms of mana sustain. But see what he does end up going for. And the biggest surprise for me is the fact that Vox has maintained a CS lead, because Garen top has been just forcing that wave to push, hasn't been too worried about actually last hitting them. So some nice quick items coming out for Vox there.
Yeah, it does get that Spectre's Cowl, which means that he can just be a little less wary of what the Morgana can do to him in the lane, and maybe as a result take some nice fights if he can find them. Dosh around that side of the map, so they could look for something if Garen decides to keep the wave pushed. Blew his TP so we could get back pretty quickly, so definitely looking to keep the wave as close to Zodiac's tower as much as possible, which could work to Zodiac's favor if Dosh can get the right angle coming into the lane. He's on his way now.
You see Stalwart's actually been clearing out the bot side jungle at the same time, and he is spotted out here. We'll see what they can do. And Garen's playing it pretty safe though, and they realized that this is not going to work.
Yeah, Garen had an idea of where Dosh was, and as a result was able to play as safe as was needed in order to dissuade the Gragas from coming into his lane. And like you said, Stalwart taking advantage, clearing out the bottom side jungle, which means that he can kind of just keep control of the income that Dosh will be getting from the jungle camps. However, Dosh will be going back top lane, but there's another ward there, and try as he might, he's just not going to be able to pull anything off with the information that Garen has around the lane.
Yeah, and I think he has to wait for Garen to push in super far. But the thing is, as soon as the wave seems to be pushing past that halfway point, Garen backs off. Does mean though that Vox is easily able to keep up in CS, so not a huge advantage coming for this Morgana, but it is gonna go even.
Yeah, and we see Vox looking for the trade, but going to take a little bit back as Garen lands the binding. However, with the Grasp of the Undying, does get a little bit back, so Vox trying to take the best trades that he can in this lane. His jungler's not anywhere now, so it is a true 1v1, and Garen might be able to just exert a little bit more pressure, because they have an idea of where Doc is. I think Stalwart managed to just catch him out on side in a little bit in the bottom side jungle, so the top laner is kind of more isolated now as the rest of the teams hover around the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, you can actually see Stalwart just sitting on top of Dosh almost. Spotted out by a few words. Dosh hasn't given away that he was actually on that red buff, but it seems that they've kind of guessed it as they ping him out.
Yeah, it doesn't even need his ultimate to subjugate Dosh's early presence, but Dosh will be heading towards the opposite side of the jungle, maybe looking for more success topside, and Stalwart has not been focused at all really on trying to get any ganks off, more on just keeping Dosh down as much as he can. And it seems to be working so far, because Dosh has had very little impact on how this game has gone. As much as he's tried to get ganks off, as much as he's tried to catch out Stalwart, and whenever he's played aggressively, Zodiac have not been able to capitalize, nor has Dosh been able to do anything in the lanes.
Yeah, but at the same time, it also means Stalwart has had no lane presence either, and while Trundle mightn't be the best ganker of all time, that pillar can still do quite a bit to displace a few people, especially against things like Vox in the top lane. But again, it just seems it's not really a jungle game, which is surprising considering the junglers tend to have massive impacts. But for Dosh, I suppose it's not the most worrying thing because he tends to have it later on. But looks like this might be the time for them.
The Soul Shackle's coming in, and Stalwart is on his way. They're going to try catch out the Poppy. The pillar comes in, but Vox forced to flash. He's going to be close to his tower, but the binding connects. The Subjugate coming in as well. Dosh might just be enough to save his top laner. No, it is not. Garen securing the second kill of the game for Untitled. Twofold might be on his way, so they could be looking for something extra under the tower. He does have everything up if they want to fight this. He's going to fire the arrows, going to look for the Chain of Corruption, and Dosh out of tower range. They can get this so easy. The flash probably not going to be enough, and Twofold finishes off his second kill of the game.
Yeah, I think Pre should have responded to that, or at least Dosh should have and left, because as soon as that mid laner went missing, it was pretty obvious what was going to happen. But again, this is where we've seen Zodiac fall down, just not expecting rotations this early on in the game and not responding to them that well. Can't give away those kills for free though, they need to return with something.
Yeah, and huge advantage coming in already for Twofolds in the mid lane. Actually, we're going to see an engage in the bottom lane. Crixolix gets hooked up and takes a lot of damage up front, but not too much coming in. Actually, that's going to be the depth charge. They want Squirrel, forces the flash, but the bottom lane for Zodiac has probably been one of the bright spots so far. Even losing a bit of CS after being dragged out, have managed to regain it, and we saw from that trade there that K-pop and Oracle are doing a pretty good job on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, no, a little bit of a dodgy trade though. If they used that ultimate earlier, it's perhaps they could have caught out Crixolix when there was a lot of Ren stacks in them, or if you used the ultimate earlier on Braum, could have caught him out if they just waited for the Ren. Just slight miscommunications in that bot lane means they don't secure that kill and don't get that advantage for their team that right now they really want to pick up.
Yeah, we were talking about it before the game. It's pretty important that K-pop is strong heading into the later stages of the game, and he has an advantage, but it's very slight right now, and considering the lead that both Twofolds and Garen are now sitting on, it's not really significant at all. So he's going to have a tough time, and I think Zodiac will really need to look to get their bot lane in a better position. Dosh has tried previously, but there's just been nothing coming of it, and he hasn't looked to go back ever since that first gank.
Has got his Runic Echoes finished now though, and if he gets in a good explosive cask, that can demolish a bot lane pretty effectively. But they're being forced to play so far back by the Oracle that it's very difficult to find an opening. So I think that's why he's constantly looking in these other lanes to find something, and it looks like Stalwart again going to take this bot side jungle, but this time there's nothing to take.
Yeah, and Stalwart might be looking for Pre. Throws out the pillar as well and should be able to do a little bit. Twofolds is close by, but I don't think they're close enough. The arrow does not connect, and Pre will be fine for now, but we see Stalwart basically just living in Dosh's jungle, trying to do whatever he can to annoy him. Dosh still looking for something in the top side of the map. The flash out means Garen will be just fine. Great flash from him to keep himself safe.
And in terms of mana sustain in the mid lane though, I want to turn back to this Varus. He's actually gone for Essence Reaper, which is pretty unusual, as you tend not to first of all crit or really auto a lot as Varus, but he has been autoing a little more, so maybe he just wants that for sustaining the lane, and now it's Stalwart going to run straight into K-pop.
Stalwart initially wants that trade, but with the Oracle in, he might not want it, and K-pop will happily take that kill. Nice ult from him means they can secure it easy as you like, and talking about getting the bot lane ahead, if Stalwart's giving you kills like that, it'll be pretty easy for K-pop to further his advantage.
Yeah, and really living the troll life there. I'm not too sure what was going on with that positioning, but perhaps thinking he's had control over the bot side jungle for the past age. Hasn't had the bot lane collapse on him too effectively previously, but this time they find him, and it's not too long. Take him out.
Yeah. And right now we see doesn't allow Crixolix to once again get a little bit more pressure, but even so, I think K-pop will really happily take the kill over that, and the Callista and the Nautilus should look to cause even more problems now for Untitled's bottom lane. And Dosh has not really looked there, but maybe if the Callista can come in with a little bit of advantage, could just make it easier if they're looking for ganks. However, for the most part, K-pop and the Oracle have been pushed, making it a little bit difficult for the Gragas. So we can see maybe why Dosh has looked to avoid it. He nearly found some success top side of the map, and with that flash down, he could maybe look for something a little bit better. However, this time it's Untitled's turn. They get the box flash immediately. And we see definitely both junglers occasionally visiting top lane to get flashes and not much else.
Yeah, and you're seeing the bot lane are already doing very well for Zodiac. Realistically, if Gragas can just make sure that Poppy and Pre don't go down, they should be okay. But again, now Stalwart's decided, okay, bot lane kicked collapse on me. It's time to take topside jungle as Dosh decides to go into that bot lane. He has the Rift Herald buff, so they should be looking to take this tower, but they seem to have a bit of a split focus, maybe catching out twofold.
Oh, they caught out twofold. He's going to get locked up. This will be a lot of shutdown gold coming in. Pops the barrier, but isn't enough. Free is there on the other side. He's going to be the one who gets the kill. Nice pick there from Zodiac.
Yeah, and again, now they can turn around and take that tower, but it is the tower in the bot lane that goes over for Untitled, so if they don't get this tower, they are actually losing out. Fox should be able to hold this now. Shouldn't be playing too far forward though, as Stalwart can just come straight back.
Yeah, however, it's going to be a dive in the bottom side, and they're going to go past the tower. Squirrel going to stay under, and they're going to try turn towards the Brawl. The explosive cast knocking him back, and K-Pop's second kill of the game coming in. Nice dive there from Zodiac, and now they can really turn onto the tower.
Yeah, but they don't have the weight with them now, but they have evened out those kills. Still behind in gold though until they get that tower, but as soon as they do, they'll actually be in the lead.
Yeah, and that would be nice for them if they can get it down. They have the 3 people there, so they should have no bother knocking down this tower at all, which will even it up and, like you said, give them the gold lead in this game for the first time in a long while. First time ever since that initial kill from Untitled came in, and Zodiac, despite a weak early start, are really coming back into it now, looking to take the blue buff away from twofolds as well. And we're beginning to see just regain their footing in this game and maybe take control of it a little bit more.
And that's a TP that I don't think he'll want to follow through. There's not much mana, but he's going to follow it through anyway. Now he's going to get...
Fox going through that. That's going to be the other TP coming in for Pre, and he does manage to keep his top laner alive. However, I think Zodiac has to get out of this. Pre going to be the focus here as he's locked up by the Chain of Corruption. They manage to keep so much CC and they get the Lulu down. Cannot get anything else. Morgana in a really nice spot. She'll be able to get Fox and the Oracle with the Soul Shackles. That's 3 kills coming in for the Untitled, and they capitalize completely on that TP from Fox.
And I don't understand exactly why he followed through with it. He could have cancelled it there. His team had no mana to go back in, didn't really have the health bars either, and now it could be a 4th kill coming in.
Oh, K-Pop, you're just a little bit far forward in that tower. Untitled don't care if the tower's there to help you out. That's another kill coming in. Twofolds right now, 5-1 and 1. This Varus is getting huge early.
Yeah, he really needed to back off there because the Pillar of Ice wouldn't have been able to catch him. Was worried about the Garen snare, but at least they would have been forced to tower dive at that point. Gave it a little too easy, but that's going to be another tower down for Untitled. This is the kind of snowballing lead that they're used to getting.
I feel as if I'm consistently jinxing this for Zodiac. Whenever I say they do something right, we see something bad happen almost immediately after. And Untitled taking that fight really convincingly, nearly getting the 2nd tower. Are going to hop out and see if they can. Or they're going to lock up Garen. The flashing from Dosh really quick from them. Garen going to go down in the middle of this. Fox will take that. Squirrel flashes over the wall, but I think he's only delaying the inevitable as Dosh chases him down, finishes him with the barrel. 2 kills for Zodiac, and they're looking for a 3rd. Is there any way out of this for Twofold? Does not have either summoner. The Chain of Corruption should slow down the oncoming Zodiac members a little bit, and he does make it back to his tower. The Dredgeline will look up Stalwart, but he does manage to flash out of it. 2 kills for Zodiac, not much more. We'll see what they can do with their brief man advantage on the map.
Yeah, and a good return from Zodiac, but again, it was the initial thing that leaves them pretty much in the dust at this point. Perhaps they can get that mid tower, but it looks like they're actually going to go up to the top tower. They do have a big wave there. Try clear out the jungle in the meantime, and try make sure they don't make the same mistake that Team Untitled just did.
Yeah, and we see nice rotation from them to go topside where they had the minion wave. We'll see if they can get it down. 3 members there mean that they should be fine, especially when their next minion wave comes. So Zodiac managing to close the tower game just a little bit more. However, they do find themselves facing a significant disadvantage right now. We see all their outer towers are down. They are down about 1.5k gold as well, and Untitled managing to retake control of that game with that fight, managing to catch out Zodiac in their own jungle, and we'll see what they can do with it, especially the fact that the Varus is so huge right now.
However, he decided to go for a late Muramana with that back. Not too sure about that one, to be honest. It's going to be a pretty late stacked one. It's 19 minutes at this point. Really going to have to start stacking it quickly, and Varus was never the quickest at stacking it either, but not too sure about that decision. It's going to be a quick dragon over for them as well, though. But at the same time, it is only about a 2k gold lead. It's entirely manageable for Zodiac if they find the right engage, which is probably their strong suit, as we saw previously.
However, they might be looking for another fight here. The Fate's Call will get the Oracle out, but Dosh is going to be the focus. Stunned up, take it down, twofold with another kill. And now Untitled going to chase this fight down if they can catch anyone else. Vox, the next focus, will be dropped by Stalwart. And 2 kills coming in already for Untitled. The 3 members of Zodiac do not want anything else, which means Untitled could just push the wave and get this tower.
And they can continue pushing after this, because their wave clear is in Free, who's consistently also able to be caught out by this Pillar of Ice, by Garen, and it's just constant picks from Team Untitled. Zodiac don't seem to have a good response to it.
Yeah, we see them manage to keep the tower up for now, and they are getting their members back in the next few seconds. However, Untitled, once again, finding a really nice fight, and we see really decisive calls from them in the middle of the fight. Good target selection means that they can get the kills as efficiently as possible, and as a result, once again, they extend that goal lead right now, just under 4k, and this Varus is absolutely tearing Zodiac apart.
Yeah, it seems to be between Chain of Corruption and the Dark Binding and the Pillar of Ice that Zodiac don't really know where to position, and the answer is generally together, but what's happening is you're seeing the Dark Binding go through them. It hits whatever target, and then they're not able to turn around the fight. We saw that it was Nautilus and Gragas that were locked up there, pretty much the ideal targets, but they weren't able to stay alive long enough to even get out of the binding.
Yeah, and Zodiac with the nice counter push there with Untitled backed off to knock down that last outer tower, so they have a little bit more space on the map themselves if they wish to play aggressively later on. But even so, they still face just under a 3k goal deficit, which definitely puts the game firmly in Untitled's favour, as we've seen the last few fights. And they're really finding it difficult to deal with. If K-pop gets taken down, they obviously have no damage, as their comp is kind of built around that. And even without K-pop, they just haven't been able to weather the damage that the comp from Untitled is bringing out at this point in the game.
Yeah, and I think they'll need to either scale up or just at least make sure they're not consistently getting caught out, because on the champions they have, they should be very good at protecting themselves, but they just don't seem to have the tankiness right now to sustain through even a single catch.
Yeah, especially that Gragas will still be waiting to finish an actual proper tanky item to be able to be more of a frontline presence in this one right now. The Runic Echoes not going to do anything really for him defensively. We see he has the Spectre's Cowl, the Glacial Shroud, looks to be building towards an Iceborne Gauntlet as he just bought that Sheen. But even then, it's going to be a long time before this Gragas can really throw himself into the middle of a fight. And we have seen Untitled have been able to capitalize on it. Dosh fell pretty quickly in that last fight, and he has to be just a little bit more careful when he takes these fights until he gets a few more tanky items.
Yeah, and again, we haven't really seen great use of the explosive cast thus far either, simply because he hasn't been a huge factor in these fights. You can see the effect that narrowing his champion pool has done to him. See if they can actually force anything with it though.
Oh, the heroic charge from Vox, not able to push Stalwart into the wall, also doesn't get the stun off. However, on the bottom side, Six and Squirrel with the push forward do have support from Twofold. The Fate's Call will be going in, but they're outnumbered here. Dosh is going to be a little bit late to the party, and the Oracle is already going to go down before the Dosh can even get in. The explosive cast just pushing them away, and Dosh forced to body slam out of that, and as a result, Untitled pretty much just given another pick, and they should actually be able to push through this tower pretty nicely if they can keep it going like this.
And this is what I was talking about previously when I was saying Team Untitled controlling the pace of the game. You see that Zodiac are starting to panic now that they realize that this is their LAN dream essentially being crushed if they don't get through. But they don't need to force those. They can wait for something to be forced onto them. And it's Twofolds is the siege man, and they're just being poked out, and not even poked out, being caught out before they can be poked out, because they're trying to force these trades that just haven't worked out for them.
Yeah, and a rain of piercing arrows, piercing lights, and Dark Binding is going to push them off of that tower, and it does fall. 5-3 in towers now in favour of Untitled, and Vox going to actually get started on here by Stalwart in the middle lane, going to try force him back, but Squirrel's going to join. They should be able to slow this Poppy down. Dosh on his way, but still waiting on the explosive cast for a few more seconds. We see the Glacial Fissure coming in. However, Zodiac might be looking for this, but Stalwart low. But once again, they find themselves outnumbered. Dosh going to soak up almost all of that culling. The wild growth is forced. Zodiac not losing a member, neither Untitled. Nothing coming of that, but close fight for both teams.
Yeah, and I'm surprised at the side of Gragas that he hasn't really tried to rush any significant armor item, has decided to go for that Iceborne, which is good when he gets the engages. You can actually see the amount of damage he puts down with that EW combo is a lot, but realistically should be just looking to make sure that he doesn't die, maybe try rush the Dead Man's now, get the Iceborne after that, because if he doesn't survive, the amount of damage that Iceborne does is 0.
Yeah, and we saw when there was not a huge amount of focus on him that, like you said, he could do just a little bit damage with that Iceborne, but as soon as he gets caught out, he is taking a good bit of damage, now has a little bit of armor, meaning that he can take the hits from Twofolds and Crixilix just a little bit smoother, but even so, it's not by any means hugely tanky just yet. However, Zodiac a little bit better from them. Once again, it looks like they might have got themselves in a nasty position, but for the first time in a while that we've seen recently, they actually managed to get out without losing anyone. And if they can maybe keep that up, maybe use the disengage that their comp is pretty good at, they could get themselves out of these situations that they've been finding themselves in and that have allowed Untitled to get such a big lead so far.
Yeah, and it's rare to see a Protect Parry comp get caught out so often, just because it has inbuilt safety, but just haven't been able to use that effectively. Lulu Wild Growths have been kind of thrown out pretty haphazardly, and an attempted steal with the explosive cast not gonna pan out for them, and that just removes any more chance of disengage, which Zodiac have already been struggling with.
Yeah, that explosive cask still on a pretty low cooldown, but we could see the minute that that was gone and they didn't get the dragon, they got straight the hell out of there. Did not want to risk the chance of being caught by Untitled, who were maybe looking to see if they could find anyone. The Arco coming in from the side, gonna flash forward, they're gonna go on to Twofold, but can they get on the Baron? The flash from him, who boxes straight in the backline with the rogue charge, gonna knock him up, and Twofold could be in huge trouble. However, they're just not able to finish him off. The barrier helping him out a little bit, and Box forced to back out. The Fate's Call from Arco does not hit, and Twofold has a bit of space on the side of the fight to operate. The Arco not stunned up, but Stalwart coming in from the side, polymorph straight away. However, I think he has allowed Untitled to take this. Crixilix with the first kill. Box could be the second death on the side of Zodiac. The flashboard will mean he is going down. 2 more kills coming in from Untitled, and once again the 3 members of Zodiac forced to back off as Untitled take another fight.
And I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but just forced engages from Zodiac don't work. You could see they're trying to get these flanks off, but they take so long to kill things, they just can't get into the backline. You saw the Chain of Corruption there actually held up the Lulu getting to her tanks, and then held up the Callista. At that point, you have literally no damage going on to your engaged targets, so there's no point in engaging.
Yeah, and we see every time it happens, the Titans just go straight down the mid lane, and because of that, they managed to get the inhibitor. However, they might want the kill. They get the Oracle. They could get Dosh as well. The burn damage will be enough. Quick, flashing forward, double kill for him. They get the inhibitor now, and Untitled just taking complete control of this game. Zodiac falling very far behind.
Yeah, and this could be the Baron, or they could just swap straight to this top lane. Probably the better call here, because they have a massive wave there. They should be pretty free, and Aaron just going to continue to leave that wave pushing. You see the amount of damage just a single Dark Binding does is actually huge now that he's full AP, and they could probably dive this too if they get onto Lost.
Walks very far forward, and he once again is just giving himself up almost. The Wild Growth will mean that he does get out alive, but risky and almost unnecessary play from him. I don't think there was any way he was really going to keep that tower alive. And Untitled have just been taking everything that Zodiac has given them, and it's culminated in an 8.5k gold lead for them, 7-3 in towers, and that inhibitor in the middle lane going down.
And this is Untitled, their usual thriving in chaos that we've seen in their previous wins, because as soon as they start pulling a lead, you could see these kind of panicked engages coming out from Zodiac, these attempts to look for something, but it's just everything looking so scrappy is what Untitled wants. They can then get these counter engages that have just looked so strong, just single picks from them, and nothing to respond from the side of Zodiac thus far. Just haven't been able to find their usual team fights, and it looks like this ban strategy from Team Untitled has worked out so well in their favor.
Yeah, if you can cast your mind back to the final of the G6 Open when Untitled took that series in pretty convincing fashion, once again just managing to almost overpower them, and Zodiac could not maintain their structured play enough to do anything against the pressure that Untitled was bringing all game long, and we're seeing it once again. However, it looks like Zodiac want one more fight. They're going to go for Garrett. They're going to almost get him down. The Zonias, though, will keep him alive for just a little bit longer. The Baron has gone over to, it goes over to Zodiac in that case. The steal coming in from Dosh. However, 2 kills coming in from Untitled in the middle of that. They might be able to get more. However, they're being very careful about this fight with low health bars on their side. K-Pop's going to be the next target. It's going to get saved by Fox in the middle of that. The road charge not going to be enough as Twofolds go back in from the side. Pre, the only member for Zodiac who survived in that, does have the Baron buff, but is there anything he could do against the 4 remaining members of Untitled charging down that mid lane?
And it was a really nice Baron steal, but you saw that Callista rendered so early that she didn't have it for that whole fight, and you saw the amount of low members she was autoing That rend would have meant so much, but it looks like it's going to be the game instead.
Yeah, the death timers aren't long enough, and there's not enough this one Lulu can do against the 4 members of Untitled. They get 1 tower, they get 2 tower, the Oracle is up, but I don't think he can do anything as they focus the Nexus. They are going to take it down, and it will be Team Untitled making it to the live finals of G7 Division 1.
And it was forced engages from the side of Zodiac that just didn't work out, and Team Untitled were very good at capitalizing on them. Good flanks from Trundle, and just in general, great picks from Untitled give them that win, and we will see them face off against Sentinel at LAN.
Yeah, Untitled will be facing off once again against Sentinel. Sentinel won their game earlier in the group stages, but Untitled will see if they can do anything against their former foes in their matchup at the LAN, which will be in 11 days time, I should say, on the 5th and 6th of March. We will see those 2 teams clash off in the semi-final on the Saturday, the 5th of March. Hope you can join us then. And once again, a very good evening to you.